Hello and welcome to the SWS Natu Natu series. Now is the time to move into geography. And this is a video where we are going to talk about what is the strategy that you should employ in order to study, revise, and in the examination hall, what should be your strategy in terms of doing very well, in order to do very well, in order to score an 80 on 80. That's the ultimate aim, isn't it? So that's what we are going to be doing as part of this video. And further on, there will be many more videos as far as your geography paper is concerned to help you prepare absolutely 200%. So like, share and subscribe to the channel. Okay, because even when you get done with 10th class, 11th class के लिए content है, 12th class के लिए content है, irrespective of whether you are going to be in ICSE or move to CBSE or even to a state board like say the Maharashtra State Board. So there is content still available on SWS. Okay. So let's get started. This is going to be the ultimate strategy and ultimate plan for ICSE Class 10 Geography paper. And I want to talk about a few key areas. Now, the geography paper for 2023 is different from the geography paper that your seniors faced in 2022 when there were two semesters, right? One MCQ, the second one MCQ plus subjective, but only for 40 marks. You are having an entire 80 marks paper. 2022 se pehle, 21, there was no examination. 2019, 18 was entirely subjective paper, right? Where 50 marks for the chapters and 30 marks for map and topo sheet. Now, a lot of it has changed. So I do hope you have seen the specimen paper to understand the format. Okay. So understanding the paper pattern is extremely important. So now you're going to have 10 marks of MCQs, 10 marks for map marking like before, 10 marks for topo sheet. Pehle 20 ka hota tha, 20 marks, now it is down to 10 marks. Okay. And 50 marks for each of the chapters where you will get questions from all the chapters, but you need to attempt only 5 of them. Okay. Now, the big focus comes, the big change which has come is that can you still survive by preparing only 5 chapters? Because what your seniors used to do was they would prepare topo sheet, they would prepare map marking, and out of the 9 chapters, prepare only 5 chapters. Okay, out of the 9, prepare only 5. The question is, क्या आप वही कर सकते हैं? Can you do the same? Can you also score high marks by doing only 5 chapters? Technically, yes. Technically, yes, because if you do those 5 chapters, that means those 5 MCQs you will be able to do. 10 MCQs, there will be 1 from each of the 9 chapters, and from 1 chapter, there will be 2 MCQs, right? So let's assume that you are getting only 5 out of the chapters that you have done. So you technically still can score 95 out of 100, or let's say 75 or 80, technically speaking, right? Assuming that you get your topo sheets and map marking absolutely spot on, right? So technically you can still land up at a 95 on 100 by studying only 5 chapters. The choice is yours. If you are the kind who would definitely want to score an 100 on 100, you'll have to study all chapters, right? So that is the straight funda. Frankly speaking, that is the position. Okay, the choice is entirely yours. Now, let's start with the MCQ. See, MCQ ka funda kya hai? What you need to do. MCQs, the chapters that you choose. Even now, I wouldn't say that you need to study all the 9 chapters very thoroughly for both subjective as well as MCQ. I don't think that would be smart studying. I would say that you should definitely prepare 5 and keep at least 1 or maybe 2 chapters as buffer, because in case you prepare only 5 and you get a bit of a tricky question in 1 or 2 chapters, then you are kind of playing with fire. You're playing with your marks. So don't do that. So prepare 1 or 2. So let's assume 7 chapters and not 9 chapters, right? So those 7 chapters you prepare them thoroughly for both subjective and MCQ, and the remaining 2 chapters you can prepare only with the MCQ in mind. So how do you do that? Factual details. Factual details is what you need to focus on as far as the MCQs are concerned. So agar agriculture chapter ki baat ho rahi hai, which has too many details, right? You need to know rice paddy ke liye ya wheat ke liye what is the temperature conditions, what should be the soil conditions, what should be the various factors which play a role in the sowing, the cultivation, the harvesting of that crop, what kind of a crop it is, kharif crop, rabi crop. So a lot of these details, but if you put them all in tables, prepare smart short notes, you will be able to retain most of it for that 1 mark. 8 mark ka sawal hai, but you will need to do a lot of hard work for that 1 mark, right? So that is as far as the MCQ ka funda is there, right? In fact, what we have done on our SWS test series is to have a whole lot of chapter wise. We have done chapter wise MCQs and subjective papers, plus there is ICSE specimen solved paper, plus there is one more SWS paper which our faculty Rameshwar sir has prepared. So that you get chapter wise, you can actually prepare for those MCQs. Okay, what I will do is I will deal with the maps and topo sheet in a separate video. उसमें ज़्यादा focus की ज़रूरत है, right? So that will be in a separate video. This is an overall strategy video, what you need to do over the next 2 days. Okay. So when it comes to, but before even though I'm going to do map marking and topo sheet in a separate video, I just want to tell you that over the next 48 hours, prepare at least 5 maps. Practice with at least 5 maps and practice with at least 3 to 4 topo sheet. Utna practice karo so that you are in tune, you understand how the entire thing works. Physically draw all the map markings so that you are used to it. You know, us time pe you should not get into a doubt as to how much of an area you need to shade, how much of an area it needs to be covered, where exactly the line should start or end. You should not have those kind of doubts. So prepare with at least 5 maps and at least 4 topo sheets over the next 48 hours. Okay. Now, let's talk about the 50 marks. Okay. Let's talk about the 50 marks in which the reasoning questions are extremely important. And where do these reasoning questions come from? They come mainly from the climate chapter, they come from the transport chapter, they come from the industries chapter, they come from the soils chapter. Okay. I mean, any chapter can actually throw up those kind of reasoning questions, but primarily these chapters are known. Climate mein to most definitely there are at least 3 marks ka reasoning questions straight away. Okay. Waste management se bhi aata hai, right? Please remember that geography is about the world around us. So whatever happens, you know, everything can lead to a question as to why is this happening. Geography is pretty much like earth science, right? So everything can lead to a question कि क्यों हो रहा है? Why is this happening, right? And that is what can come in the form of a question in your examination, right? So that is as far as the reasoning questions which you should not ignore at all. The next one is the data numericals from the climate chapter, right? Which is likely to be of 3 marks. Now here again, you need to ensure that you calculate correctly. Number 1, practice at least, I would say 6 to 8, if you can, maybe even 10 sums. There is one paper which you have put only on data numericals in the SWS test paper series. So you should do that so that you are again used to the different permutations and combinations. किस तरह से आपसे question पूछे जा सकते हैं. Now let's then come to the choice of chapters which I was talking about. Now vegetation, natural vegetation. If you ask me, I find agriculture and natural vegetation the most tricky chapters. So if the choice was left to me, ये दो chapters मैं सिर्फ MCQ के लिए करता, subjective form के लिए नहीं करता, because there is just too much of load on the head from these 2 chapters. Even though natural vegetation is a small chapter in terms of number of pages, but somehow the mind tends to get confused within forest. Is forest mein kaun sa ped hai? You know, what are the different characteristics, features of that particular forest? One can tend to get confused. Agriculture, of course, is a vast chapter, right? So entirely up to you. I'm not saying that you should do this, but I'm just expressing my own feelings. Similarly, you may think that you may find some other chapter tricky, right? But entirely up to you. What I would suggest is that whatever you are doing, please rely on those short notes which you can revise on the night before the examination and the morning of the examination. Those short notes will come in very handy, and especially from the point of view of MCQs. Okay, so the factual details become that much more important. Agriculture, as I said, is another this thing. So what you could do is to make some kind of flow charts. If you are doing agriculture, even from a subjective long format 10 marks ka question, ensure that you make flow charts, right? Tables, climatic conditions, distribution, everything you make in tables for each crop, right? You'll be able to retain it better and make codes, make your own codes. If you love sports, sports के हिसाब से करो. If you love हिंदी का मुहावरा, हिंदी के मुहावरे से करो. If you love Hindi films or any films, do it according to the titles of films. But you could do that according to what works best for you, what you will be able to retain. That's what you need to do. Now, same thing I would say even with the energy resources chapter, right? So that is something which you should do. Transport and waste management chapters are two chapters which I would strongly advise you to do. I wouldn't say they're easy chapters, but they are easy from an examination point of view. So those are two chapters which you should definitely study. So if you ask me, my top five, climate, soils, transport, waste management, and water resources. These five I would have definitely gone, and the other two as buffer I would have kept industries. Industries chapter I quite like, and energy resources. Energy resources also, like agriculture, there's a lot to retain. So you could choose between energy resources, agriculture, and natural vegetation. One more could be your buffer. I mean, that's what I would suggest, entirely up to you. Okay. Now, let's look at the tricks to do well as far as the geography examination is concerned. Okay. Now, first, of course, is to write the perfect answer. Now, again, with the help of the specimen paper, I will show you how to write the perfect answer with use of keywords. Okay. But in this video, let me say, do not write a mass of words. Paragraph mat likho. Point form में लिखो. Make it easy for the examiner. यहाँ पे बड़ा बड़ा paragraph मत लिख के आना. Okay. Mention if something advantages of say railways. Mention the 3 points like that in 2 sentences. I'm not saying just write one word. No, write full sentences, but let the 3 points not come in one big paragraph. Make it into 1, 2, and 3. 3 पूछा है, so I'm giving you 3, maybe I'm giving you 4th one also. Okay, so that is something which you should do. Also, look at the question papers of the past 5 years, even though the format has changed, purely for the subjective question papers, answers. वो भी देखो, so that it will be easy, because you'll get an idea about kind of questions which are get. I mean, we'll try to do a video looking at those PYQs also. Okay, now that is how to write the perfect answer. Should I do PYQs? Yes, you should do PYQs, as I just now said. This is something very important, which many students make a mistake with, and that is something which you should definitely, most definitely avoid. Do not change the sequence within a chapter question. अगर आपने transport का choose किया है, so go from 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 questions होंगे, 5th तो नहीं होगा, but even if 5th is there, so go in the same order. Don't start with 4th, go to 2nd, then come to 5th, then go to 1st, then come to 3rd. Don't do that. Go in the same order. Don't confuse the examiner. You don't want the examiner to get confused and miss out giving marks for some question, right? Because जब अगर आप revaluation के लिए करेंगे, तो उसमें they generally do the totaling. Okay, so फिर से reevaluate नहीं होता है ठीक से. In some cases, yes, if they find an answer has not been checked, they may do that. But you don't want to take those chances of doing that at the revaluation stage. So, pehle stage mein go in the right order so that you don't make any mistake of that sort. Okay. Now, separate page for every fresh set of questions. That is something very ideal, because if you are finished with the transport thing and the next you are moving on to waste management, do it on a fresh page. Don't have to kind of continue in the same page. If iska sirf 2 line hua hai and you feel, oh, it's a criminal waste of wastage of paper, then leave about 3-4 lines, leave a gap, and then start the next one. Don't mix up. So that the examiner knows that, okay, ye set khatam ho gaya, abhi main dusra set I'm doing right now. Okay, now a mistake which many students made in their pre-board papers, and I would want you to avoid in the board papers, is that you need to put the right number. I know it's a very silly mistake, but many students actually make the mistake. 2 लिखते हैं but answer 3 का देते हैं, 3 लिखते हैं लेकिन answer 4 का देते हैं. So just be careful and be focused that you are writing this correct number, and then उसके बाद पूछने के ये नहीं है कि अरे मैंने 2 के बजाय 3 का लिख दिया, मेरे को मार्क्स मिलेंगे नहीं. There's no point feeling tense about these things. Please be focused during those 2 hours of the examination itself. Don't mix up the order. Okay. Then after writing the thing, underline the keywords, especially during the revision time. You can do that. Underline the keywords, जो point लिखे हैं, that will really help in highlighting and emphasizing that you have used the specific keyword. Okay. If you have time, you can even give answers in a flow chart or tables. That can be an idea if you have the time, if you don't end up wasting too much of time. So that again, you are saying, okay, especially in chapters like, let's say, waste management, this leads to this and this process leads to this. You can actually do that. You can show it in a flow chart or some kind of tables. You could do that, right? So that is another option. Now, in the MCQ questions, write the complete answer. Don't just write A, B, C, D kind of thing. Please write the full answer. पूरा आंसर लिख के जाओ. Generally एक word होगा या 4 word होंगे. It won't like take too much of time. So that is something which you should do. Let's now come to the time management. The 15 minutes reading time. What you should do is to decide on the 5 questions that you're going to do, whether you know all the subparts of all the 5 chapters that you have prepared, whether you know each one of them, या आपको buffer में से किसी को utilize करने की जरूरत है. No answers to the MCQs. MCQs भी देख लो, and the topography questions. Okay. Then in the first 5 minutes, if you have done all the MCQs, only 10 MCQs किया है, 5 minutes में you can finish off with the MCQs. Okay, 10 marks in your pocket. Then in the next 15 minutes, do the map marking. Why am I putting map marking at the beginning and not at the end? Is that if by chance, if you have run out of time, okay, and at that stage, at 12:45, you're going to start with the map marking, you will be in a hurry. If, you know, हो सकता है जल्दबाजी में your handwriting and everything. So instead of, you know, the line, I mean, instead of Ganga, you may end up marking Yamuna, right? You wouldn't want to do those kind of things. In map marking, you need to be with the most fresh mind and not with a tired mind, because after writing 5 long questions, you will be answers, you will be actually a little exhausted. So उस time पे map marking करना I don't advise at all. So go for the map marking right at the beginning when you have a fresh mind, right? In case if you don't know anything, leave that mark and make a note of it. ये मेरे को last में करना है, right? So do that right at the beginning. I'm allotting 15 minutes for map marking, which I think should be reasonable. 15 minutes to do the topo sheet question. So ये हो गया 35 minutes. So this is till 11:35. You would have finished with 30 marks of the paper. And then 5 questions, each one should not take more than 15 minutes, leaves you with 10 minutes for revision time, buffer time, revision time, whatever you may call it. So 15 minutes में एक question कर दो, 75 minutes, 75 plus 15, 90, 90 plus 15, 105, 105 plus 5, 110, and 10 minutes for revision. So I think that should be reasonable time management strategy in order to finish the paper on time. If you have time, you could attempt an extra question, but not at the cost of your quality of your first 5 questions. Those have to be your best. Those have to be your best. उसके बाद अगर आपके पास अभी भी टाइम है, बिकॉज काफी कुछ लिखने को भी होता है, बट अगेन जियोग्राफी में यू डोंट हैव टू राइट लंबा लंबा क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर्स. You need to focus on the keywords and whether you are writing relevant information for those points. Okay, I hope this strategy video on how to prepare and how to take the geography exam, you have found it useful. Thank you very much. Please look up the SWS papers. उससे आपको फायदा होगा because उसमें MCQs और subjective दोनों हैं. टोपो शीट पे भी papers हैं, right? So please practice with them or any other pre-board papers that you may have. Thank you very much. All the best.